Welcome to episode 7 of the Beggars Canyon Boys.
Let's go.
Yeah, returning to you post original trilogy, post Return of the Jedi, coming in with a little Return of the Jedi cool down episode.
Yeah. Shout out to those who have fallen: Yoda, Jabba the Hutt,
Vader,
Boba Fett,
Yeah.
Vader,
Palpatine.
Palpatine. Wow, a lot of death. In memoriam. I just thought it'd be nice to have a little in memoriam section right here.
That is nice of you. Well, then let's keep going. We got Obi-Wan,
True,
Uncle Owen,
yeah.
Aunt Beru, Grand Moff Tarkin, and every single employee / prisoner of the original and second Death Star.
Yeah, Luke's friends. Did we name them already?
Biggs Darklighter. Yeah. Wedge is still alive. Wedge lives.
Oh, okay, he's still good.
Yeah.
I thought he had 3 friends though, and 2 died, or it was just 2 friends and 1 died.
Two friends and 1 died. I think. Yeah, Porkins.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, I remember. I remember him because I was like, I wonder if he has an action figure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of those other guys on Jabba's sail barge.
Wow. I guess.
Sad.
Oh, and like the entire planet that Leia was from.
Oh, of Alderaan.
Yeah.
So, the only other name I know is Bail Organa, her father. Rest in peace to him.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe we see them on Life Day.
Yeah. When we all put our consciousnesses into our, what are those called? The magical orbs that psychics have. Crystal balls. That's what I was trying to think of.
I thought it was a Star Wars specific thing.
I mean, there probably is a term for those, but I don't know it.
With their red Snuggies. Do those have a name? Do you know?
Yeah. No, I don't know.
They probably do that.
They probably do. So yeah, today we're covering some books and some video games and behind the scenes stuff. We'll talk about it as we go, but we played the Star Wars Jedi Arena Atari 2600 game, the Star Wars arcade game. Unfortunately, on my computer at least, could only get the Atari 2600 port to be working, even though the actual arcade game looks pretty cool. I think I've seen it too at a bar around here somewhere.
Is it at the Star Wars bar you were talking about?
No.
Okay.
At some other bar.
You would figure they have something like that there, though.
That would be cool. They might.
I was gonna say, have you been inside that place before?
No. But yeah, I was saying we should go for an episode and review the bar as a bonus episode or something. Then we've got the Return of the Jedi Death Star battle. Atari 2600 game. We watched the classic Creatures Return of the Jedi documentary, 1983 doc, and then we also took a look at the Return of the Jedi sketchbook, The Adventures of Teebo, A Tale of Magic and Suspense, and The Art of Star Wars Return of the Jedi, which, man, I did not even really have time to look through that book that thoroughly, but that is something that I genuinely want physically after looking at it for a while. Look at this thing. The Art of Return of the Jedi, and it has the whole script in there. And as you go, it's just the script, but showing concept art and visuals that go with what's happening in the script, and then the credits of who drew each of these things. And it varies from sketchbook things to full matte painting concept art by Ralph McQuire, and then some behind the scenes pictures and things like that as well. This is so thorough.
There's all these alien variations in here too that are really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Detailed breakdowns, it looks like.
Yeah. But it just goes through the whole script. I mean, here we have a full schematic of Max Rebo's red ball jet organ. I mean, this stuff is amazing.
It is cool.
I didn't get to look at it as much as I wanted to because I was kind of man, I feel like looking at this digitally is not... I just want this book, so I think I'm going to get it.
Oh, there's all the early Jabbas that we also got to see and hear a little bit about in the documentary.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you want to talk about first? It's a bit of a grab bag, and we can also just go into a more general discussion of behind-the-scenes things on Return of the Jedi, but... yeah, what's piquing your interest right now?
Well, I guess like we could start with the video games since they were just a little drop in the Star Wars bucket. Really, still nothing too satiating when it comes to the Star Wars video game experience.
Yeah, I would agree. I guess, the Jedi Arena one
Which
is...
sounds so cool. That's what's so sad about that one.
Yeah,
Jedi Arena?
I know, like,
Sign me up.
the promise of, like, a lightsaber dueling video game is pretty cool, but
Mm-hmm.
that is so, like, barely what this is even. It's a very simple game. You just have the little training droid ball from the first movie flying around, and you're trying to deflect shots from it to go into your opponent's like bank of blocks, like essentially like one of those like paddle brick breaking games with the ball.
Yeah, just like a strange variation on it, I guess. Yeah, like I told you, but it like had cool noises for the time, like very crazy sounds that I think would like excite children. So
Yeah, pretty chunky sounds. Maybe if that's all you had at the time, that game would be exciting, but it's
Yeah.
pretty tough to enjoy.
I guess the idea of like being able to manipulate pixels on the screen with a friend as well, since this is a multiplayer game too, is like a really cool promise if you have never experienced like any type of aspect of that.
Yeah, especially like at home.
Yeah.
Like, because the arcade had, some crazier stuff than that, but like, yeah, it's hard to just even wrap your head around the concept of like at home video games being such a novel and crazy thing at the time.
Yeah, I truly have no like base metric for how to critique Atari games.
Yeah.
Like what's an innovative one and what's like just a stale one, because they almost all seem stale just because our frame of reference for video games has like decades built on that.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when I hear people talk about Atari games, like the fact that there's like two different parts of the game can be like a really big deal.
Yeah.
And like so many of them are just single screen things. Like there was that game, and then there was the Star Wars arcade game, which I think was a pretty big deal at the time, an extremely popular game like at the arcade.
And that's the first like cabinet arcade Star Wars game.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Made by Atari, which we should say, I guess the other Atari 2600 games are made by Parker Brothers, if anyone cares. But
hey, but they made the previous stuff we played too, right?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, I recognize the name.
yeah, and the JFK assassination guy programmed the Jedi Arena one.
That's right.
Not the other one, but that arcade game.
Also, you shouldn't call him the JFK assassination guy, by the way.
Yeah, the guy who assassinated JFK programmed those games. I can't think of his name, so
Just like if I had done like a lot of research into all that stuff and like collected and whatnot, I just wouldn't want to be called, the JFK assassination guy.
Why not? Rex Bradford. That's his name.
Cool. I'm just trying to make sure the podcast doesn't get a lawsuit.
I understand that, but he's declared himself to be a big
Hater of JFK? What?
not a hater of JFK, a collector of information about the assassination.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, the arcade version of the game is really cool. It had this like full thing that you could sit inside with cool artwork on the outside and everything.
I wonder if you can buy like a recreated version of these, because I know you can do that with like certain other arcades.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Probably very expensive, but it's pretty cool. Like that video that I sent you of the actual arcade game, like has
that guy was having fun.
He was, and it looked fun. I really like the way the wireframe graphics look and stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool. And that, we played the port on the 2600, which is understandably a lot less fancy, but it's still kind of fun.
Aspect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still liked it. And I got, I felt some sense of progress in an Atari game for once, which I hadn't been feeling in any of the other ones, where I got to another level, at least it felt like.
Yeah, like you actually, that you're like approaching the Death Star, you fight the TIE fighters, then you go to the surface of the Death Star.
Yeah.
Like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the actual arcade game, they had like voice samples of like Obi-Wan and Luke and Darth Vader and stuff, and then they had like good video gamified versions of the music and stuff like that. Which is I can imagine like going to the arcade at the time and being like, holy shit, here it is. I can freaking fly an X-Wing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. I wonder, I wish I knew like more about the arcade scene at the time too. I want to know like what the most popular game was the year this came out. And then like if there were even metrics on that, like if we could see, hey, Star Wars like actually put a dent in like the Space Invaders for a little bit or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, the article I was reading about it was saying that it was very popular, but okay, Namco's pole position is the most successful arcade game of that year, which I've played. That's a good game. Pole position, it's a racing game.
Okay.
In Japan, we got Star Wars at the 27th most popular game of the year. In the United States, we got it at the 47th most popular game of the year.
More popular in Japan. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting indeed.
Honestly, it's got to be here somewhere in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure we could just do some digging on like where it is, and someone on Reddit has posted like, you can play it here. Yeah. And then the last one, well, I guess you played another one that you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the bike one, if there was a bike one you mentioned.
Yeah, I think it was that one that I showed you for like 2 seconds.
I had no clue what I played then.
Yeah, there was one canceled one, like a Ewok battle one that I played for like 2 seconds. It was really kind of shitty. And then there was the other one that was the Return of the Jedi Death Star battle. You fly the Millennium Falcon, and it's got 2 sections. It's kind of cool in theory. The second section, you've got the under construction Death Star, and you have to blast away blocks of it and try and reach the middle core while other little blocks are coming in to fill in like the missing pieces. So it's like being built while you're trying to take it down and stuff like. But it's not really very fun.
A lot of these games are just variations of like Brickbusters.
Yeah, for real. It would probably be a little more fun with an actual joystick. Now I'm playing it on my keyboard with the arrow keys. Like, yeah, I'm sure it's a little more fun, like flying a ship around in space with the joystick.
Yeah, and on your old tube television.
Yeah, just those crunchy sounds and flashing lights and things like that. Like, yeah, I can see the appeal if I'd never played cooler video games than that.
Hey, absolutely. I would love this. If I was a kid and I had like my SNES and this, I would still play both probably because just noises and flashing lights, like you said. I
guess for reference, you were also born in 1998?
97.
97? Okay, so sorry. Really sorry.
Yeah. So
well, 97.
Just so people know, like in real life, I'm the wise one, and sort of the one who paves the path for Jackson to walk as he grows in life and reaches maturity. So well, it's backwards here because you know more about Star Wars.
Yeah, this is just the one area where he has me to look to, but in pretty much every other aspect of my life, you're right. I just kind of follow in Ryan's footsteps.
Yep. Hey, don't forget to do your taxes, buddy.
I think it's a while before taxes come around again.
Well, you want to this guy's always procrastinating. Jeez.
Well, I don't think I've made any money since the last tax season.
Well, that's because we haven't released an episode yet.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I only mentioned that just for reference to like what video games we would have been playing when we were little and stuff, like early 2000s video games.
Oh, there's something you want to talk about?
No, I was...
you got something on your chest.
No, I was just thinking about the scene from the holiday special where B. Arthur starts singing about another drink, my friend, and like how that song keeps going on, and it, for some reason I was just thinking of that in the car and about how it's like when you are at like a bar or a party or something and you feel like you're kind of obligated to be there for at least a little bit because like you really maybe only know one or two people there, but like they invited you and you came and like, okay, like I'll talk to them for a little bit at least. But then like every time you try to leave,
Yeah.
you kind of get roped into like one more thing or one more conversation, or like your friend just hasn't closed their tab yet and you're like, come on, like just do it. I'm trying to get out of here. Like that's what that song made me feel like.
Yeah, wow, that is a really good take on it. It is that exactly. Ugh.
Yeah, just like, please, can this be over?
Should we watch that again?
Yeah, I think we should. Well, I think we should force Andy to watch it.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty funny.
Yeah. Andy, future guest on the pod, I'm sure.
Yeah, when we hit the holiday episode again, just every holiday season, hit it up.
I mean, I'm sure we'll have new things to say about it on like the fourth watch.
Yeah, a lot of minute details to pick up in that dance number.
Mm-hmm. Which one?
True.
Yeah, anything else about the video games?
They didn't say Shade My Hunger, as I said.
No. I mean, and unfortunately, the next couple I don't think will either.
That's fair.
And then even the Super Nintendo ones, they are much better than anything that comes before.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still just not quite, like, they're good games, but are they, like, great Star Wars games? I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I think they'll make me happy at least. But
then once we get into the X-Wing and TIE Fighter PC games, oh boy, that's when it starts taking off.
Hey, like I told you, I keep getting Star Wars ads for things now. I got an ad for like a Ubisoft game that's coming out.
Outlaws or whatever?
Yeah, and I was like, I can't look into it, obviously, but just by the thumbnail, it was like someone on like a desert planet with like a motorcycle type thing. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, this looks kind of cool. I truly know nothing about it, but from the art, I was like, I want to play it.
Yeah, I've tried to not like look at too much about that, but from what I have gleaned, is it gleaned or gleaned? Gleaned, I think.
I literally had this like thought the other day, and I just avoided the word, but I think it's gleamed.
But gleam is like a visual, like the gleam.
Yeah,
the gleam in your eye or something.
You think it's gleamed? That just sounds incorrect to me.
Yeah, I know. Let's just take a look. Glean.
Gleam sounds like a Star Wars character.
Glean, to gather grain or other produce left by reapers, to gather information or material bit by bit.
So it's gleamed.
It is glean.
That weirdly sounds incorrect too.
Yeah.
Is the problem. They both sound wrong. Gleamed.
Well, now we know.
Yeah.
So from what I've gleaned, it's about like bounty hunters.
No, you said it wrong.
Glean.
It's gleamed.
No, it's with an N.
It is with an N.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Gleam is like the light gleamed off of this thing.
Okay, so it's gleamed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad I avoided the word when I was going to say it then, because I was going to go gleamed.
Well, I said both and showed that I did not know the right answer, so. Yeah, well, you also admitted that you... Okay, sorry. Yes, sir. It's about bounty hunters, is what I was trying to say. It looks like it could be cool, but it's also a Ubisoft game, and it might be an annoying, like, open world thing, but...
You don't think an open world Star Wars experience sounds cool?
It does sound cool, but if it's just, like, the same as all these other types of open world games where you have, like, your main objective and then, like, speeder bike racing missions and, like, clean up the cantina or what, I don't know. I mean, it could be fun. Oh, man. I'm going to play it. I'm going to get it.
At some point, we need another bonus episode that is just like, I want to hear what your ideal Star Wars game is then, you know? I want you to paint it out for me.
Well, there are a few that come pretty close.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So we'll actually get to something close.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, you know, the only reason I say close is because, like, yeah, if you're saying in a perfect world that it could be, like, whatever exactly what you want with no technical limitations or anything, then, like, yeah, they could probably improve. I'm sure the developers would have wanted to improve on what they did if they had more time and money and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, we can talk about the documentary and the behind-the-scenes books and stuff. Well, actually, that's probably the meatiest of it. We should probably talk about Teebo book first.
That's probably the meatiest of it.
Yeah. So, I wanted us to take a look at this book, this children's book, written by Joe Johnston, called The Adventures of Teebo, A Tale of Magic and Suspense.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
kind of a mislead.
I don't know. There's magic and suspense in the book.
I guess so. It feels like we get it's like diluted though.
You don't think, well, I don't know if you got this far, but you don't think the part where all the remaining Ewoks in the village who weren't drawn away by the Dulocs, I'm that name will not stay in my brain.
I'm glad that I have one on you.
Yeah.
This one sticks with me for some reason.
Yeah, the Dulocs. You'll be my go-to Duloc rememberer.
Yeah.
Logray leads them all in like a chant together, and they summon like a big wind that then scares the Dulocs and brings like a tree branch down on awful or whatever.
I did read it, but even you saying it there makes it sound a little more epic than like how it seems.
It's a pretty dumb book, but it's for like 6-year-olds.
You know, I do want to say, like, I think if I had found this in school and I just read it, even like unconnected to Star Wars, I would have enjoyed it. Like,
I think so too. If I was a little kid, the drawings are pretty good.
Yeah, a little scary even. At times.
Yeah,
the Ewoks. There's like this balance of cute and scary in their world.
Mm-hmm. For real, because they're close to being like just freaky looking.
Yeah,
I wanted us to read it because, or at least flip through it because they published like 18 Ewok children's books over the next like 3 or 4 years.
Wow. Is this the start of a series? Does it continue with like Teebo? Or what is it?
I don't think so. Yeah, Teebo, the son of like, oh no way, I'm gonna remember his dad's name. Like, and he had a little sister too, like Billy or something.
The mom was similar to the Wookiee mom. It was like Malia.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It was one of the early ones. It might not have actually been the first one that they published. And I think there maybe are little series and more. They're like even more like picture books for like 3-year-olds type of thing.
Yeah.
Versus this was like a 40-page mini book. Like it had more words than I thought it was going to have.
Yeah, because you initially were like, we could read some of it or read it, just do a live reading of it. So I also thought it was like a quick 5-minute read.
Yeah, that's what I thought it would be, like
pictures.
A Dr. Seuss style book, but no.
Then you were like, okay, no, I got to read it actually. And then even then, still, I was expecting less words than it is. Like this is just like a book.
Yeah, just like a short story. That is kind of long.
Yeah,
40 pages long.
Yeah.
I wanted to read this one specifically because
it's really good.
Because it's really, really good.
Yeah.
Because it introduces a lot of concepts that will be used in the Ewoks cartoon.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
As well as it's written by Joe Johnston.
You were joking when you were saying that. It's going to use a lot of concepts in the next Star Wars movies.
Unfortunately, none of this ever comes up in any movies again. Yeah. Except maybe the Battle of Endor and the Caravan of Courage Ewok TV movies. I have not seen those, and we will be checking those out.
Yeah.
So maybe
I'm going to get sick of Ewoks, aren't I?
Well, I think this is like why people don't like them. It's more than actually just the movie. It's because that's what Star Wars became for the next 3 years, was super childish, super focused on the Ewoks. Ewoks cartoon, 2 movies and a shit ton of books and toys and things all about Ewoks.
That would be annoying. I get that.
Yeah, and you're like, what? I want some more hardcore Star Wars stuff, and all you're getting, even the most ravenous of nerds would still probably be like, well, it's a kid's show, but I'm gonna check it out. Yeah. And then it's just like an Ewoks cartoon.
Really just hoping for a drop of something Star Wars.
Yeah.
Greater lore, though.
Maybe a stormtrooper will show up in an episode or something like that, but probably not. So I think that's why there's such a negative connotation with Ewoks in fans' heads.
Rough. Well, when I was reading, I was thinking, because I know you mentioned one of the critiques is also how did these Ewoks take out these technologically advanced stormtroopers, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And this book, I don't know if it's canon or not, but
I don't think so.
gives a little more credence to the stupidity of Ewoks and makes that argument stronger because they were pretty dumb in this. They
Yeah.
were really dumb.
They know that the Dulocs are nothing but liars. They say that right up top, and then they immediately believe that when they say, like, you have to evacuate all your warriors from here.
And like the main Duloc's name is Volgar.
Volgar,
like, that's just
and he looks mean.
Yeah, don't trust someone in Volgar.
Yeah, they okay, so I guess, like, for anyone who cares, the basic plot outline of the book is essentially Volgar and these Dulocs, which are just sort of like evil versions of Ewoks.
They're longer.
Yeah. They show up to the village and they say, oh, this beast, I don't remember what this beast is called, has taken your children, the Grudak? Yeah. The Grudak beast has taken the children. They all believe him. They send all the warriors out, and then the Dulocs kidnap all the babies and say they're going to eat them. Then Teebo is like a guy who likes looking at the sky, and he doesn't really do anything. And turns out the Grudak or whatever is friendly, and they get all the babies back.
Just to like emphasize though how stupid the Ewoks in this are. Okay, Volgar, the main Duloc, who is like orchestrating this stupid plan, which I don't even think they believe there's a monster at first, correct? Like, because the Dulocs are like, we have this
big wooden footprint.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like, this was the monster, fools. Like, so silly. But just to emphasize, Volgar, that Duloc leader, is not even like the Duloc leader. He's not the king, because the king Duloc is in this later. And he's like,
oh, yeah.
He's like, Volgar's an idiot. Like, I traded Volgar 2, like, scrawny little birds, and he gave me this fur vest. Like, he's a moron.
Made of Ewok fur, by the way, which there was, like, a couple dark things in this where, like, I don't want to be, like, having this tone of, like, actually, this children's thing is really dark. Because it's not. But there were some moments where I was like, okay, I don't think they would put this in a book for 5-year-olds today. Like
when the babies are going to get eaten?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that, but they describe the baby being, like, tossed around haphazardly between people. And then they also talk about how the real Duloc king, like, splatters on the rock. Like, they're like, he'll be okay, he's gonna fall into the river. And then a big wind comes and blasts him and he dies splatting on a rock. Like, I don't know, maybe they would still have stuff like that. But there was this one part at the end that I don't know if you got to. Did you get to where Volgar had a knife at Teebo's throat?
No, I didn't. Yeah, so I did read the last, like, 5 to 10 pages.
There's a part at the end where he literally goes, like, surrender right now and, like, drop all your weapons and let us go, or else you'll be carrying this guy home in 2 baskets.
Oh my god. Wow. And that's, like, probably accurate, because proportionally, if you cut the head off of a Ewok, you'd probably get, like, 50-50.
Yeah, maybe, like, 33%.
Oh, okay, but really specific.
Well, 1/3,
Really, really specific.
Okay, I don't think it was that.
Good job, math boy.
Okay.
You like math in Star Wars?
Not really.
Neither of those things?
Not math.
Well, should I clarify?
I mean, I appreciate some of the, like, engineering that had to go into designing some of these classic creatures, but
oh, good segue.
Well, we're not nearly done talking about this book.
There's more you want to say about Teebo?
Yeah. So, the other interesting thing about this book is that it was written by Joe Johnston. Who is Joe Johnston? Well, you remember
JFK assassin.
Yes.
Sorry.
Do you remember the assassination of John F. Kennedy? The sketchbooks that we've been looking at?
Yeah.
He is the lead visual design artist for Empire and Return of the Jedi, and also did the storyboards for the first movie. He's the illustrator of those sketchbooks. Yeah. And he's the illustrator in that book as well as the writer of it. And I meant to even mention this the first time we ever talked about Joe Johnston, but he will go on to be a director, and he literally directed Captain America, the First Avenger.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Interesting.
So the writer of Teebo directed an MCU movie, as well as The Rocketeer. You know that movie?
Yeah, I've heard of it. It's about a music group.
No, it's like a classic like golden age superhero type of like corny
Oh no,
30s Art Deco superhero type
I
thing.
don't know it then. I think I know the image of that character, but
Yeah, he's like blasting
yeah.
straight with like that ridge on the top of the
I
helmet.
didn't know it was a movie though, and I honestly never knew what that was associated with.
Yeah, it's like an old comic that they made.
Oh,
Disney made like a live action movie of it in the early 90s.
well, interesting connections.
I thought that was kind of if I figured we had to look at one of the many Ewok children's books, and if there was one to look at, it might as well be with the guy who's the most actually connected to the movies and stuff.
Yeah, you said there's like 18 of them.
Yeah, there's a bunch. Yeah,
What possibly could they further be about, right? Like,
I mean, some of them are called like the Great Berry Jamboree or whatever.
yeah.
Well, that's actually an actual children's book, The Berry Jamboree or something.
Oh.
Yeah, but there's stuff like that about like festivals of Ewoks
Yeah.
like dancing and stuff. Like,
I just assume the conflicts have got to be stupid every time. I mean, hard to milk something better out of that environment, it seems.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe they get like George R. R. Martin to take on the Ewok.
Yeah, yeah.
Lumpy, first of his name.
So the other
Sorry, Wookiee. It's a Wookiee.
Oh yeah, Lumpy's a Wookiee,
But
but
it mixed up because they said that
originally.
Mhm.
Yeah, which like, I guess we can talk about that later, but like probably would have been much more easy to accept that like a bunch of Wookiees could take out stormtroopers than Ewoks.
As
But
much as I dislike the Wookiees, honestly, pretty crazy that they like stopped on going forward with that Wookiee idea and just went the Ewok direction instead.
yeah,
It seems
yeah.
like it would have been much cooler to see like a Wookiee world where like they're fighting there.
Did they say why other than they just wanted it to be cute or something? They said something about why they didn't do the Wookiees. Maybe too hard to make like
They said they
100 Wookiee costumes or something.
No, it was a weird reason. It was because George Lucas had thought the Wookiees were being seen as too sophisticated already.
Oh,
He
yeah.
had the idea that he wanted like a really, I don't know what proper word he used or like.
They were saying primitive, a society of primitives is
Yeah.
the language that they were using in that. But,
So like a less, I don't know.
yeah, and I guess that kind of makes sense because he is like pretty tech savvy and he, fixes the Millennium Falcon and flies it and stuff.
I think there could have been like a mesh of like the natural world and like some tribal stuff with technology though that you could have just made
Yeah.
Wookiee culture.
And it could have even been just that Chewbacca, since he doesn't live on the planet anymore,
Oh yeah.
like has adapted to like the human life and everything, and like he learned all that stuff. So it's like they're not stupid. They can learn all these things, but they just don't have it on their planet or as part of their society or something.
Do you think there's any possibility that the reason was because of the holiday special?
And they already showed like Kashyyyk and stuff.
Yeah.
Like why? Like because people didn't like that or what?
Well, just like I would say, they were like, "Oh, we actually can't make this the Wookiee like home base because we showed it as somewhere else."
Yeah, true. But I guess I'd say like why not just make the Death Star be circling Kashyyyk instead of Endor?
True. Yeah. I don't know.
And they kind of have established that the Wookiees were like used as slaves to the Empire, so it would have even made sense that they were like there, but whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know,
Strange.
in my theory is that they wanted something cute that little kids would like.
Yeah. Well, and if I've made anything clear, I don't think Chewbacca's very cute.
See, I do, but
Yeah.
so the final interesting thing about this book, not even that interesting, but that the Yuzums are in it. So the most famous Yuzum is Joe Yowza, who is a member of the Max Rebo band. He sang. So this is him in Return of the Jedi. He's like, and we saw him getting piped into the wall in the behind the scenes documentary.
Yeah.
In like one shot. So he's a Yuzum. Originally, there were supposed to be a lot of these guys on Endor as like the evil version of the Ewoks, but they were too hard to like make move around independently and stuff. So, but they're in the book. They ride scary giant spiders.
Yeah, as I was literally on that page, because I think that's where like the Yosms pop up. I was like just thinking to myself, this book has so many insane words in it and names. Like,
Yeah,
you just pick it up and like your eyes scan a page and you see like Yuzum, Ewok, like Dulok, like all this. It's like
Teebo, Grundok. Yeah,
it's a lot.
it is. It's too much. I mean, and it makes it be
A little exhausting.
a little childish, and like that's kind of why they probably don't say most of this stuff out loud in the movies. Like they never even say Ewok in the movies. They just let it be.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At least in Return of the Jedi, they don't say Ewok at all. Like you said, I probably would have enjoyed that if I was like 6.
Yeah, we're not the target demographic
Absolutely.
as we are now.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, as 26 years old, I don't find too much interesting about it other than just a Star Wars historical context piece.
Yeah, I also feel like part of like I said, I can already get the sense that I'm gonna get sick of them, but part of the reason I was like, oh, Ewoks are cool and fun. I don't mind them that they're in this third movie, is their visual appeal. And so reading an Ewok book is
yeah.
a little different.
I know, like they look and sound pretty cute. Like I like their little voices and stuff, and then like they're just speaking English, and it's not as charming. And I'm assuming that in the cartoon they're going to be mostly speaking English as well. Did you get a chance to look at the sketchbook, Return of the Jedi sketchbook?
No, I didn't look at the sketchbook.
Well, no worries, but it's pretty cool. I mean, just from a visual standpoint, and we'll just shouts out real quick. We've got Joe Johnston and Nilo Rodis Jamero, sorry, I don't know, who did the last book together. But this time, we got Ralph McQuire, classic, did all the matte paintings and stuff, and Norman Reynolds, production designer for Return of the Jedi. So he also did art direction and stuff on the other ones. This book is pretty cool, just kind of gives some context behind like some of the design choices for Jabba the Hutt and lots of other, creatures and ships and things like as the last ones did. But specifically, the most interesting thing to me that jumped out to me was in the concept of Jabba the Hutt. And yeah, like George Lucas wanted to have this big slug guy, but they say that Rodis Jamero, sorry, I'm going to assume it's Yamero, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Had the image of a queen bee, like a helpless, super fat, like thing that is in charge of everything, but can't really like defend itself physically, but has like just presence power over everything in the room.
Well,
and
that's interesting.
All its little like drone and guards and things around him, like.
Yeah. That's a cool comparison. That fits Jabba really well.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about that.
Me neither. Then this one, which we also saw in the documentary, this is Phil Tippett's design for it, his original model that has a bunch more legs, like a caterpillar kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was even thinking about this last night before I looked at this and before I watched the documentary, but this just further reinforces it, that he is a lot like the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland, because he's like also like smoking a hookah thing.
Yeah.
And then George Lucas is talking about how he's like a evil sultan type character. And I felt like I even had this image in my head of a Hutt somewhere in a comic book or something with a fez on even. And I can so easily picture them like wearing a fez. And then their language seems pretty like Japanese inspired actually. And it is called Huttese. So
yeah.
But anyway, I was just putting that all together of like, oh, duh, he's supposed to be like, for better or for worse, like this sort of Arabic fat guy
that
smokes hookah and has executions happen in front of him, like George Lucas says in the
Yeah.
documentary.
Very interesting though too, because again, for better or worse, I mean, that's like a stereotype.
Yeah,
But this
absolutely.
but this is done in a way that like that's not immediately identifiable. I think like when you see Jabba the Hutt, like you don't
No.
necessarily think of those things. It's like after I guess you can start to piece it together, but still like.
Sure. Yeah.
Star Wars in general, I think, does a good job of taking certain things that are stereotypes and then like still presenting them in really unique ways. Because I know we talked about this earlier too.
Yeah, I agree, and like, I could understand somebody like disagreeing with this thing that I'm about to say. I don't think it's like a crazy controversial thing to say, but
Uh-oh.
I could get why people would think like, no, this is just like a bad thing to like use those kind of stereotypes and translate them into like, and it's so alien to like the Japanese language sounds so crazy. And even when they were
Yeah.
talking in the documentary about the making of the Ewok language, they said that like Ben Burt, the sound designer, looked at like all these like African languages and things and kind of amalgamized them into like these sounds. And it's obviously not so great that they're like keep talking about them as like super primitive and stuff. And like all of that is like not great in where I guess what those thought processes are.
Yeah.
But I think in the case with Jabba the Hutt and some other things, it maybe even takes some of the sting out of those stereotypes. Again, I'm not the one to truly be able to comment on this, but I think that we are in like such this crazy alien world where there aren't too many like recognizable things to grasp onto. So the fact that like a lot of the characters embody these certain like recognizable tropes, I don't just mean of like racial stereotypes, but of like characters that we've seen before in a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense?
No,
I don't think it's a good thing that necessarily to like show stereotypes and associate like villains with certain races and things like that.
No, I get what you're saying though, because like it's again not a good thing, but it dilutes it on the subconscious level of like the association with like bad racial stereotypes, and it makes it more about like extrapolating caricature. So it's still like loosely connected, but it's getting like no pun, but like more alien,
Mm-hmm.
So that's weird.
I can't tell in my head if that's like more or less insidious in terms of like ingraining stereotypes into children and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess it's like less maliciously intended at the very least.
Sure.
There's credit to that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's something to really keep an eye on as Star Wars stuff continues and we have more and more alien races because obviously they're all inspired by something from reality, whether it be animals or other cultures and things. And oftentimes an amalgamation of many things, which can be perceived as insensitive when you're just like, well, we're just going to take the vibe of like Japan, China, Korea, whatever. We'll just kind of mix that all together into like this Asian seeming thing or whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But just something to keep an eye on as we continue on the journey. I think
It is interesting, and it's definitely popped up a few times in this original trilogy already. I'll be interested to see if the prequel has a lot of this going on and how it's presented there. Because hey, different time.
A different time.
And
I'm not going to say a damn thing,
okay.
But there will be stuff to talk about, for sure.
Just thinking about that period. Well, we'll see what happens, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. And I think, he does a good job of making, like, pretty much no aliens, like, speak English. They all have their own language.
Yeah.
So that further removes any kind of association with real life, like, races and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Yoda speaks English, but he's kind of a special case.
Yeah, and he's like really bad at it too. So
I don't know. I think he's pretty well spoken. He just has a different sort of grammatical structure than we're used to.
Well, you say different, but I think the correct word is incorrect, right?
Wow. So you're like one of these guys, like speak proper English.
Wait.
Just lots of like early designs of Ewoks.
Some really
and
cool Ewoks.
These, I wonder if they even made an impression on you just watching the movie one time. A-wings and B-wings. Could you tell me even what those were without looking at the pictures?
No, I could not tell you where they were utilized either, really. I mean,
These guys?
yeah, were these in the end with the Death Star again?
Yeah, yeah. And the A-wings too. They're like little things. And then the B-wings are like the cross ones that they're not on screen for long, but they're just in the, fleet of ships flying with Lando and the Millennium Falcon and the other X-wings and stuff.
Oh, okay. Look cool from these images here, but yeah, I didn't remember seeing them too much in the movie.
This is a cool little chart right here on page 95 of the book where they kind of show you like the scale of speed and maneuverability of all the different fighters, which I guess was just used as a reference point when thinking of design and how something should look based on how nimble or fast it would be. So we got the A-wing, like the super fast mini one, then the TIE Interceptor. Yeah, and then like these are the three from the first movie, the X-wing, the regular TIE fighter, and the Y-wing. It's just a pretty cool little chart.
Yeah, that is neat. Man, this franchise it was so ripe for merchandise, Like just I see all these little images of all these different ships and I'm just like, it looks fun to play with. Like every single thing looks so fun to play with.
Yeah, just hold them and fly around in it with your hand.
I know. Honestly, I'm glad I wasn't into Star Wars when I was like in middle or high school because I had much more of a collector's mind at the time, and I would like go buy like every Funko Pop of a series or something.
Nice.
So I'm just glad because Star Wars would have taken so much of my money.
I know. Legos of Star Wars were really the only thing that I super heavily collected, like throughout childhood and then even in high school. And then I still get them every now and then now. But they're just expensive, so I don't, I would always ask for them for like as Christmas presents and stuff when I was growing up, but I definitely didn't ask for that. I have like a big R2-D2 on my desk. That definitely wasn't a Christmas present like 2 years ago.
Hey, I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this, but like ever since I was like 23, I was like, I don't know what to ask for Christmas anymore. That like I don't have, just like if I really want something, I have the means to get it myself at this point. Like, or I just have the things I need already, and like.
Sure. Usually, my grandparents will just text me and be like, "Hey, it's getting close to Christmas. Like, let me know what you want." Like, even still.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll. I mean, not. I don't want to sound ungrateful because that's like extremely nice of them, and I appreciate it. But it just what you're saying of like I try to do that of like, okay, what's some stuff that I really don't need, but like it would be cool to get like this Lego R2-D2.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's just every Christmas I have to be like, okay, what's like a fun thing that I can have? I'll be like, oh, for me it's just like I'll be like, okay, you instead of me buying one of my omnibuses, you guys can buy the omnibus from Santa.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just trading that off.
I think we can talk about the documentary and other behind the scenes stuff for the rest of the time if you want. Well, I mean, general thoughts about the documentary, general thoughts reporting for duty. Hopefully, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of like little specific things about the documentary I found really interesting, but I'd like to know what your takeaways were.
Well, to start off, I thought it was nice it was narrated by Carrie Fisher, just as the last one was by Mark Hamill that we watched.
Yeah. Sorry, just to say, we said at the beginning, but it's called Classic Creatures, Return of the Jedi documentary. TV documentary, 1983, directed by the same guy who did the other ones we watched. It was on CBS. All right.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was super interesting. A lot of it was like getting, I guess that was for the focus, like getting behind the scenes looks at like puppetry and the costume work and like a lot of in-depth stuff about the Ewoks, which, as I told you, it was interesting to see, like, I guess they said, because all the Ewoks were little people, which is what you told me last time, and I guess they just took local people, so they were saying, like, yeah, there's, like, a bunch of random, like, just random jobs that some of these Ewoks are. I forget what some of them were, but it's just, like...
Like a typist and a secretary and a plumber and stuff.
So, yeah, it was just, like... It's interesting to me because I always want to know what those people are thinking, like, getting to be on the set of Star Wars. Because, again, at this point, it's already huge.
Yeah.
And, like, you're just coming in. Same with, like, they mentioned the stormtroopers on that moon.
Being mostly out-of-work lumberjacks is what they said. Yeah.
Which was also super interesting. And I was like, man, this must be such a different experience for them, getting their money. But also, like, do they know about Star Wars? They must, right? So this must be super cool for them, too.
Yeah.
Like, they're the bad guys now in Star Wars.
Yeah, they can always say that they were, like, literally in Star Wars. Like, you know, behind a helmet or not. Like, you were there. You were in the movie.
And this was shot in California, by the way.
Yeah. Where even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar would seem tiny.
Yeah.
Or would feel tiny, is what is said.
Well, another script written for our narrator.
Yeah, the that moment, and then very quickly before that, there was another really weird line. So Robert Gwinnett is the director, and he's also one of the writers, and Greg O'Neill is the other writer. I just want to shout them out because they're responsible for even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar would feel tiny in, like, the Redwoods is where they are.
Yeah.
And then also when Carrie Fisher is talking about the little people auditioning or signing up to be Ewoks, I guess I don't know if they did, like, auditions or what, but they
said only like 100 or so showed up. So I'm guessing, like, if you showed up, you were pretty much in.
Well, she said some were turned away because for the first time in their life, they were told they were too tall.
Yes.
I was like, holy shit, why would you say it like
unnecessarily, that? Like, brutal rhetoric. Like,
yeah.
Oh.
For the first time in their life. Like, oh, geez.
Like,
yeah, she also...
We're finally giving them something they've always wanted to hear, but this time it's going to be bad for them, just like the rest of their bad, miserable life. Like, it's just a mean, weird line.
Go back to your boring British job.
I also thought there's also, like, the funny moment, I think, right after that, when she's like, yeah, like, I was calling them all their names, and she just lists off a bunch of these weird Ewok names. She's like, because I would let them borrow my hairbrush all the time. Like, and it's like, no, I don't believe that for a second. Like, they just wrote that in the script.
Bloopy, blorp, blop, dingle, farty, silly pants, snort face. Those are, like, all the creatures in Jabba's palace, too. That she was bracking off the names of.
Okay.
But yeah.
Sorry, Ewoks have weird names, too.
No, they do. But I think she was throwing in Ewok names in there as well.
Yeah. I was just, like, imagining Ewok needing, like, the hair blower. You know?
Well, we did see that the guys at Jabba's palace in the heavy costumes just were having, like, I'm assuming these were blow dryers, but with cold air being just, like, put into their mouths. We saw, like, the Rhodian guy that, like, you know, is like Greedo from the first movie, just have, like, a blow dryer stuck up his mouth hole. Like,
yeah.
Pretty funny. But it must have been so hot in those. Holy crap.
Yeah. Stark difference from, like, what we were talking about with the Empire Strikes Back with the Tauntauns and them lighting the... was it a cigarette?
Yeah.
Inside their costumes to keep warm.
Yeah, because the smoke machine, like, froze up or something, so they had to blow smoke through the nostrils with the cigarette. But yeah, it also probably kept them warm.
Yeah, just different. Wow, Star Wars has taken us across the galaxy, hasn't it?
Yeah, and across the globe. We were in Africa in the first movie, Norway in the second movie, and then this one's pretty much all the location stuff is in the United States, but Britain was the sound stages for everything.
And hey, big country the USA is.
Yeah.
Give it a little credit.
It's got desert and forest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we have Hawaii and Alaska.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's very true.
Lest your patriotism fail you now.
I don't know. I don't really necessarily consider myself to have too much patriotism.
More nationalist.
No, I wouldn't
I'm
say
patriotic, which is healthy, but you're a nationalist. Like your country can do no wrong.
no, I definitely don't feel that way. I don't really feel either of those ways. I feel more it's like I don't really care that much about like the country as a concept. You know?
Honestly, I'm a little more loyal to like the rebel cause even than the United States at this point. So
Absolutely.
I hear you. Yeah.
And according to George Lucas, the Empire is the United States.
Is it gonna get? Well, do prequels? Well, I won't ask anything. Okay, I can't ask anything.
It's okay. It's okay. It's pretty silly though.
I want to experience certain things blind though, so I know I can't ask things.
Yeah. Maybe this was before we started recording when we talked about Yoda, but like when they had the little moment on Yoda in that documentary, I was like literally about to cry. For some reason, the way that the music was going and the way they were talking about Frank Oz and how like, and he is Yoda and like how magical it is that he could like make this inanimate thing come to life and be such a wise, like intelligent thing, not just like a silly little thing that laughs or whatever. Like I was really just like getting emotional about that. And then they immediately cut to, and he also plays one of the most nubile, sensuous, sexy, funny people in the world, Miss Piggy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty interesting Yoda segment. Yeah, and like I told you, like it was weird for me to while you were having that experience. I was just like, it's weird to see Yoda like this without like the pretty lighting on all that,
yeah,
and, like,
the fog,
the mist and whatnot,
yeah.
because he just looks different. But you also said that was like a different model.
I
Yoda,
think so,
right?
Because I'm pretty sure that was the same footage that they used in the last documentary that we watched.
He just looks so lifeless. In
that. Yeah. I don't think there's the full like detailing on his face and stuff in that one.
It is also wild though that Yoda and Miss Piggy,
yeah, same voice.
Yeah, two sides of the same coin.
I mean, what a legendary performer though. Like Jesus Christ, this one really goes into the puppets and stuff like more than the last one did.
Which is what we were asking.
Yes,
what we were talking about.
Which I guess there are more of those complicated puppets in this one than there were in the last one. But yeah we wanted more of Yoda stuff in the last documentary. But we didn't get that much Yoda, but at least we got a lot of like Admiral Akbar and Jabba the Hutt stuff.
Super interesting seeing the actor try and like match up the like vocalization of the puppet lips with like his pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, man, it's nice that they left this in because this is something that like probably all these actors are doing that like you just wouldn't think about, but you probably really appreciate that they're doing it because it makes the scene feel more vivid and lively. Yeah,
like they, obviously like I can tell in my real brain that it's not a real alive alien, like just...
Hey, sometimes.
Well... but I genuinely think that, like, the only thing preventing you from believing that those things are alive, other than maybe certain motions and things, are just the fact that, like, we know that it's fake. Like,
yeah.
But, like, they feel very alive. And when you're in the zone of believing the movie and everything, like, they don't take you out of it, where, like, a lot of effects can really pull you out of the reality of the world and stuff. It's not like it's absolutely perfect and there's nothing that pulls me out of it in Star Wars, but it's pretty damn good.
But we also do get, like, insight to how Star Wars kind of instills that from start to end. Because even, like, with that little Ewok scene we were talking about earlier, when they've, like, gathered up all the people and are, like, having them go through some emotions and whatnot. I don't know who was actually directing at that time, who was, like, shouting those directions, that woman.
Yeah, no, me neither. Some assistant director, Sorry, I'm sure somebody knows who she is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
I know who you're talking about, though.
but it was like a great moment from her in directing them, because she was like essentially saying like, hey, you still have to like emote and react like these things are happening. Like even because you've got like the mask on, but like we're still gonna be able to see it. Which like I know we've said that a bunch, like watching Star Wars with a lot of the things, like Darth Vader. We talked about it when they were like cutting to his face. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I feel like I can see like the gears turning and like the tough decision like that he's grappling with and whatnot. I just think they do a really good job of that consistently.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that takes like a little bit of everybody. Like it takes the actor, the costume, Jesus Christ, the way it's shot, the music, like all of that. Each gives you like 20% or something until you can fully like piece the whole thing together in your brain. Like C3PO does the same thing. Like he just has one face the whole time, but
Yeah.
we can tell when he's like, he's mostly like worried, I guess.
Yeah.
But
It's like a ball of anxiety.
yeah, but he carries a lot of emotion in just the way he moves
Yeah.
and reacts to things with like his head going back or whatever. I don't know. Even fucking R2. They were talking about that in the documentary too, and it was really something I was like, man, I guess I just take that for granted because that is really hard. R2 is so far from looking like a human or anything, but still he has a full range of emotions and things.
Yeah, and he experiences them pretty often, and like you feel for him when like something bad happens, or like when he cries out when he gets electrocuted. You're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Also on C3PO though, it is amazing because that actor also showcases a lot of emotion, even though he's stuck in like that sort of robotic arm position that he's in. He still somehow like via torso movement and whatnot can like deliver like emotional impact, like or like what kind of emotion he's trying to project.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, like
Yeah.
you are really good.
I know. That's so impressive to be able to channel that through all of those limitations, which, I'm sure it's really hard to act in that costume.
Yeah, not to mention, you must feel so silly, like in that, and then like with everything around you, like blue screens and whatnot, and like pretty difficult acting terrain. So good job, Star Wars crew.
Yeah, for real. I also love the part where they were showing the Max Rebo band and Cy Snoodles, who Carrie Fisher was calling Miss Snooty or something.
Yeah.
The green singer at the palace, but the
Wait,
footage.
This is Big Lip Lady, right?
Yeah, the long like tube with the lips on the end. Yeah, and George Lucas really was like, that would be perfect if she had big red lips, like Mick Jagger lips.
Yeah, the way that was like positioned in the documentary was so funny too.
Because Phil Tippett. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just think it's funny that they're. I totally lost my train of thought. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
No,
I interrupted you, but I thought it was really funny too because Phil Tippett, you can, I'm reading into what he's saying a little beyond what is actually there, but you almost get the sense of like he doesn't understand why George Lucas cares about this band so much.
Yes, yeah.
Because he's like, it's literally one line in the script, something like, and then the band plays. And he was demanded that there be a full like song with vocals and everything.
Yeah.
A full song sequence. And John Williams made the song and his son wrote the lyrics to the song.
Yeah, they also mentioned like George Lucas saw the initial draft of that alien and like it had really tiny lips, so he was like, no, they've got to be big lips.
Yeah.
And like it makes it seem like he thought it was like such a great genius idea. And it's like, hey, that's a visually striking alien, but like again, it is on the screen for like a minute or less.
Oh, I know. I mean, yeah, that's kind of like what Phil Tippett was saying. Like, yep, they are barely in the movie, but for some reason he was really obsessed with the idea of having this band But Max Rebo is such a classic, like awesome character. I think the keyboard player,
Yeah.
the blue elephant guy.
Hey, I like that whole sequence too.
Me too. The song is good.
Yeah.
The song is cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like a Japanese like pop song from the 50s or 60s or something.
But wait, that is the scene that you told me is not in like feature cuts, though, right?
Yeah, and while they were showing those sequences of how much effort it took to make all that, I was like, and then you just fucking.
That is.
I'm not even gonna tell you what it is in the new movies, but
maybe we'll never see it. Maybe we'll just never have to see it.
No, we will definitely watch it. I don't know if we'll watch, but. Because the special editions all come out in 97, we can just watch like a video on YouTube of like all the changes made or something like that. Okay. Yeah, the part that I thought was really cool was showing that guy underneath like the walking platform who had like the wires on his feet, and he was like dancing with his feet along with her and making her legs move and stuff. That was just like so cool. It must have been such a challenge.
Yeah, there was like really complicated puppetry just like all throughout Jabba's palace.
I mean, and Jabba himself, holy crap.
Yeah, was it 4 people were controlling Jabba?
I think they said there were 3 people actually inside the body and then 2 more like below it doing other stuff.
Oh, wow.
So 5 people doing it, yeah. The guy in the tail, the way he was talking was blowing my mind of like, you know, when he's like, feeling lazy, you know, we just do this with the tail, and then maybe he's annoyed and we go up, and I was like, holy shit. Like, and not only do you have to do that, you have to do that in sync with all the 4 other people that are controlling different parts of his body.
Yeah.
And they're looking at this tiny little TV screen monitor that's showing the tail or whatever. Like, it's crazy.
Maybe in a way, like, it is good to compartmentalize jobs like that, because if you break things down like so much like that and each person has their own individual like section to care about, if you can be like cohesive with it, you get something that really feels like logical and alive.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, because without that, who knows if that guy would have put that much thought into the emotions of the tail movement.
Yeah, if it was just like one person somehow doing Jabba, who knows?
Yeah, they, you know. But man, I mean, so cool. They were talking about how George Lucas like wanted him to react to the light, so like his pupils dilate when a big light is shown on his face and stuff like that. That's just, I mean, I forget the name of the guy who built him, but they were showing that guy, like that old British guy, and you could tell when it was coming together, and he was just like really starting to smile because it was just like, holy shit. Like if you made that thing and then it started working and it looked and moved as good as it does in the movie, I mean, how are you not like so proud of yourself for that? Like, that's awesome.
Then you get to see it get choked out by Princess Leia.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean this truly, like that's gotta be awesome to see.
Oh,
like,
yeah. I mean, and they talked about the tongue a good bit, but then we saw that shot of the guy like applying the saliva to the bottom of the tongue and stuff. Oh, man. The Rancor got some nice
the not so big
too.
Rancor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
They did go a little. There was a good bit of like repetition from the last documentary and some of the stuff of showing clips from like Ray Harryhausen movies and King Kong and stuff, and I'm like, you just talked about this in the last one. Yeah. But I guess those were 3 years apart in real life when they came out.
Yeah,
on TV.
I also wasn't sure like if they aired on the same network, even like how connected these things were supposed to be to each other. But it did. I don't know. I was like, oh, are we gonna get more of these like in the future with other actors from the series? I don't know. I don't know if the prequels do this or not.
At least about the first prequel, there's a really good documentary, but it's a little more. It's not like a TV special. It's like an actual documentary.
Is one of the actors narrate?
No.
Ah, okay.
It's a little more like modern, and you know.
Yeah.
But they also had Billy D. Williams doing a lot of narration on this one too. Guy who plays Lando.
Oh yeah.
He seemed a little out of it or something when he was talking.
I thought he seemed cool. I was like, this guy's cool.
He is cool. He's really cool. But he got to interact with Salacious Crumb quite a bit.
Yeah.
You texted me about it, but we saw that footage of the guy puppeteering Salacious Crumb and being like, I am the representation of how somebody's ideas can come from the page to a model to the screen to life. And it's
And it was like, it's magic.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, Salacious Crumb. Like, nice.
Yeah. I thought it was cool, too, how Carrie Fisher said, I mean, obviously it's a script, so this isn't like her saying it, but when she's talking about Luke fighting the Rancor, how it's like in a place that even other monsters wouldn't want to dwell, and he's like a knight in shining armor slaying the dragon and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, right, like all of this stuff is just so rooted in like classic like fantasy storytelling.
Yeah, they literally also, I think they may say damsel in distress, or like the prince saving his princess, at that point when that scene where like Luke is holding Leia in her slave outfit and like they swing away, which is like the one I mentioned last time, being the image of like, oh come on, what are we doing in Star Wars? Like, but yeah,
is this like freaking Tarzan or something?
Yeah, especially because like that shot also showcases how revealing actually the outfit is, because you can see like her whole back basically.
And her
and like her whole thigh almost. It's like it's a shot you almost do a double take on, because you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, they're showing a lot of skin there. It's kind of wild. I know. Whenever they show like the bottom part of that costume, I'm like, oh right, like the bikini aspect of it is really not even the most like weird part of it. Like,
I was glad at least in the behind the scenes it looked like they had a shawl or something they would put around.
Yeah, she's like, please let me like cover myself up where I just have to lie here for hours while you guys worry about the Jabba the Hutt puppet and stuff. Oh man, Phil Tippett got pretty heavily featured in this documentary. The lead of all monster design. He was the guy talking when he is showing the models of like the different Jabbas, and then they finally got on like the red-haired guy. Who did like the Tauntaun stop motion in the last movie.
The name just like doesn't stick with me, unfortunately.
Well, he's just a cool guy who's worked on a lot of cool stuff.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. What's his name?
Tippett. Phil Tippett.
Sorry, Mr. Tippett.
It's all right. Maybe if you watch Mad God, that movie I was talking about a couple times.
Oh, he's that guy too. Yeah. See, we've talked about him so much too. But look, this is my first watch through.
I know.
Maybe I'll remember Mr. Tippett's name in my third watch through.
Yes, I know it's not really fair, because like I'm like, you don't remember the A wings and the B wings, and they're on screen for like a total of 45 seconds in the movie. But
I think I've done pretty good as a new Star Wars
fan. Absolutely. It's just sometimes hard for me to, like, I'll be really focused on some specific thing and then be like, that is so like a small part of it that absolutely on my first like 2 times watching it as a kid, I was not thinking about at all. So I could very much understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I wish I could meet a version of myself that watched it as a kid. I'm just curious, like, how the interpretations would differ of the series. I feel like I appreciate it more now than I would then.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it more and more as I get older, I think.
I just think some of the emotional stuff would have been lost on me as a kid.
Yeah, a lot of the my favorite things about it now were really just kind of going over my head when I was younger. I mean, maybe on a more like primal internal level, I was registering those things as a kid, but I wasn't really thinking about them.
Yeah.
There was something else. Oh yeah, the most like highly produced segment of the documentary was like this whole long sequence of everybody like going to the airport and getting on a plane.
Yeah, dude, I thought that was crazy. I was like, how did they orchestrate this? Like, what lined up that they were just like, did they just privately fly everyone somewhere for something? Like,
I was wondering, like, is that Peter Mayhew inside Chewbacca in this little scene where he goes to the airport? He had a pretty authentic, like, head motion.
R2-D2 was, like, on one of the airport lift things.
Yeah, like a baggage lift thing. Yeah, the lady at the ticket desk is like, say hi to Princess Leia for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a weird moment of the documentary. Honestly, I was like, oh, this is fun to see.
Oh, yeah.
This a lot. Kind of like you talked about with the beach thing you mentioned.
Did you look at those pictures?
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
Let's just pull those up real quick. Let's get horny for the fellas on real quick. It was a Rolling Stone photo shoot. These are just like, what the hell? This one is the craziest one. So we've got Darth Vader holding a boombox, a Gamorrean guard with a beach ball, an Ewok holding Princess Leia's hands, and she's in the bikini on a towel on the beach.
Oh, my mind doesn't even want to believe this photo's real.
This was the cover. This was the cover of Rolling Stone. Star Wars goes on vacation.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What a wild photo.
I know. It's crazy.
My mind's like, that's AI. It's not real.
No, it's real. Yeah, most of these are just of Carrie Fisher, but then there's one.
They should have done like Darth Vader playing in the waves, not Carrie Fisher playing in the waves.
Yeah, this was like definitely like supposed to be sexy though.
I know, but like imagine that shot with Vader instead.
I know, it's hilarious. I would much prefer that.
Yeah.
But that's not what they're going for. Yeah, pretty weird. Pretty weird.
That is pretty strange.
Yeah, if you just look up like Rolling Stone, Star Wars, Beach, Return of the Jedi, whatever. Pretty easy to find, but those are weird. Also, I thought it was really cute, the shot in the documentary that you were talking about when that lady is talking to all the little people about the Ewoks. We talked about Warwick Davis before, but he's the guy who plays Wicket, the first Ewok that Leia meets. And he's so, like, adorable in those shots. He's like a little 11-year-old kid, and he's just smiling so much while he's, like, just running around and smiling when he's being... You can just tell, like, he is so excited to be there. It's like, oh, my God.
I thought that was very funny, too, because, yeah, I was like... I don't necessarily know the exact, like, emotion of the direction that's being given, but the director was like, now find each other. And I was like, okay, I assume this is, like, for the war scene.
Yeah.
And he just looks so giddy, like, going to do that. It's pretty cute.
Oh, I know. And Kenny Baker was in there, too, who's the guy who's inside R2-D2.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I also thought it was funny, like, when we saw the early Ewok outfits where, like, there was too much padding in the legs, I guess. So, like, the people in the Ewok outfits were either just, like, falling over or, like, they just had such limited movement in it. It's, like, interesting to see it, like, get worked out because, like, also all the fur, and they're like, okay, there's going to be heating problems if we have too much fur. So,
a
delicate science to the Ewoks.
Absolutely, and even then, like, you still have people, like, passing out all the time on set and stuff. It's like, I guess people are just I mean, we've talked about that before, but, like, if it's part of a cool movie, I guess, sure, I'll pass out.
Casualties of war.
Yeah. Cool documentary, though. It was really kind of blowing my mind, especially the stuff about Jabba. That's just such an insane puppet. I mean, do you call it a puppet, or...
Yeah, it's almost bigger than that. Like, I wonder where that is now too.
Mm-hmm. The last thing that I want to talk about is, I guess, you didn't read this, so I apologize that I didn't send this to you earlier. But it's this article from the American Society of Cinematographers magazine, and like truly, I can't even see, like, who wrote this. It's just on this archival website. I've been trying to find the author of it. But it's a super in-depth article about the behind-the-scenes process of Return of the Jedi. And the most interesting stuff to me, just because I haven't heard too much about Richard Marquand, the director of Return of the Jedi, was when they talked to him in that article. And even in the documentary, he is barely mentioned. And they even refer to him as, like, the working director and stuff in that movie. So, like, I don't know. But yeah, they picked him because they wanted somebody who could sort of not really be like this famous hotshot who would want to take too much creative control over the movie, and sort of listen to George Lucas and willing to kind of do what he wanted and funnel it through their own sensibilities, but still be very, like, receptive to doing what George Lucas wanted to do.
Yeah, their own sensibilities being like the Ewoks.
Yeah, I guess so. No, actually, he said the two things that he fought for in the room that had him, Lucas, Lawrence Kasdan, the screenwriter, as well as the producer Howard Kazanjian. They were all like kind of locked up in a room to like finish the beats of the story together. And Markan said, according to him, that his two ideas that got through were that the movie should start the same as the other ones, where it's in space, goes down, and reveals something about what the Empire's doing.
Oh, were they not going to follow the pattern they had established?
I guess not. He said it was super readily accepted, and as soon as he suggested that, they were like, oh yeah, we totally should do that.
Oh, interesting.
I'm pretty sure it started right on Tatooine with R2 and C-3PO going up to Jabba's palace. And then the other thing he said was that originally Yoda was just not going to be in the movie at all. And he goes, well, we have to see Yoda. It was such a big deal in the last movie that Luke is leaving and not finishing his training. We have to see him go back.
Yeah, was he not going to make an effort in the third film to return? Or was it just going to be like he was going to be misdirected or thwarted in it somehow? Or just like there's more pressing things he had to do, and then it's just like the end of the movie, he's like, now I can go finish my training?
Apparently, he finished the training, like, in between movies, originally.
Oh. Well, I guess they kept some of the bones of that.
Yeah, he essentially does finish the training in between movies, but...
I mean, is there anything out there that, like, fills in the blanks of, like, how he made his lightsaber?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's books and stuff with that.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And the other interesting stuff is he kind of talks about how he wanted to style this movie more similarly to the first movie than Empire Strikes Back, which I can really tell in the camera work and stuff, because he was talking about how he doesn't really like to move the camera that much, and like Irvin Kershner moves the camera a lot in Empire.
I did like that a lot in Empire.
Personally. Me too. I mean, I like it too, and I think it's why most people point to that as like the best looking of all the movies and everything. But there is something about like the rawness and like the almost griminess of the first movie and this movie that comes through, where he says stuff like, I really appreciate what he's doing on Empire Strikes Back, but to me, Star Wars worked so well, the first one, because it feels so naturalistic. It feels just like, here's the camera set up here, not moving, everybody's just interacting in the space, and that makes it feel like it's real, you know, versus like a glossy story.
Yeah. There's definitely like credit to that too.
Yeah.
I think.
And he comes from like documentary and theater stuff too, so I think that's part of it.
It's very theater is like what I was thinking.
Yeah. Like it just really, he said he gets a lot of excitement out of just setting the camera up in a wide shot and having all these choreographed things come together. Well, the camera doesn't move, but it's still like such a feat to have all this action happen in the way you want it on the camera.
Yeah,
I mean,
they've like done enough. They've done all the blocking still. It's just like blocking that is happening with the actors rather than like the camera's blocking.
Right. Which, like, I think maybe one of the awesome things about movies is that you can do more than that versus just a play where it is all static.
Okay, well, let's not insult theater here.
I'm not insulting it. I'm just saying that's, like, what makes movies cool and different than theater. You know, they're two different mediums, two different ways of telling stories.
Just don't call theater static, okay?
Well, it is. Your angle on the action is static.
What about in Hamilton where the stage turns?
Okay, but still, your seat doesn't change, and your viewpoint on the characters and how far away from them you are and how much stuff is in frame.
Hey, don't try to paint theater in a box. What about interactive theatrical shows in which you can go on a journey yourself, where you can leave your seat?
You're right. I guess I'm talking about traditional plays and musicals.
Gotcha!
You did.
Right, we can move on.
I just thought that was cool. No, but I do think that really comes through in the movie too. Yeah. And I guess, you could have your preferences on which style you like, and I think we agree. Like, I like the style of Empire the best out of all of them. But then again, it also makes it, when the camera does move in Return of the Jedi, super pop really hard, because the main motion camera I can think of is that final moment of the fight between Luke and Vader, where the camera goes right to left and we follow them walking along in the throne room and onto that bridge and everything. And that like has such great effect because the camera really hasn't moved that much in other moments.
Yeah, and I mean, I do like that this sort of idea behind like how the third one was shot. I guess just like in my head, the second one's execution of like how it was shot is better than how the third one did it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
but yeah, it's still cool and interesting, I think, and definitely like a lot of good shots that are like visually unique.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he knows like where to put the camera in a cool way. Like, especially those shots of like R2 and C3PO walking in to the palace with the giant gate and everything. Like, some of those are just so beautiful.
Yeah, those are great like little shots in the beginning of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
That movie's got a pretty awesome opening sequence too. Man,
it's good.
Yeah, it is.
I would recommend, I mean, I'll send you this article if you want, if you're interested in reading it, because it's really fascinating, and I'd be interested to see what you pulled from it as interesting. There's a lot in here about Howard Kazanjian talking about like the financial aspect of it and everything, and you can tell like he's some kind of whiz with just obsessed with like the numbers side of it, and he talks about all the specifics, like, okay, well, I have to give this actor $5,000 more because of a contract negotiation. So in this other scene with stormtroopers, maybe we'll have 2 less extras in that scene, so we don't have to pay 2 people there. And then, like, you know, if we don't finish the sound effects in this amount of time, then we have to rent out offices for more time, and blah blah. And he goes into all that, and it's like, I don't know, must be really have a different kind of brain than I have to be that kind of producer.
And again, it's just fascinating, like all the different aspects that have to work pretty well for Star Wars to get pulled off.
Yeah. And I mean, they talk about like, oh, well, wasn't it such a guarantee that this movie was going to make so much money? So like, why don't you just kind of don't worry about it going over budget and stuff? And they're like, well, no, because we're trying to make like as much money as possible, essentially.
Yeah, they also knew they wanted to do more, so
yeah,
didn't want to hurt their future money projections either. You don't want to hurt your franchise, so I imagine actually they would want to handle it with even more care, knowing that they're trying to like make it a bigger thing.
Yeah, for sure. But then they also say that they're aware that they can't skimp out on production value either, because the second one was so good visually and everybody loved how high production value that one was, that this has to still reach that standard, you know. It can't look lower budget than that one, and it wasn't, but I think it kind of does look a little lower budget in some moments. But
yeah, I think it does too, but
only like super slightly. It still looks great.
I also don't know necessarily if it is that or just like there was better spectacle just in general in the second one.
Yeah,
so just, we saw more cool stuff, so.
Because maybe I even take that back, because the ship sequences seem even higher budget in the third one.
That's what I was just thinking of too. That's what I was like, well, maybe we just saw cooler stuff in the second one more often.
I think you're right. Like, it was just more meaningful. Like the shot-to-shot visuals in this one are probably just as impressive, especially the flying ship sequences and stuff.
I guess maybe that's also part of the reason people critique like being on the Ewok moon for so long.
Yeah,
because it is like it. I guess there wasn't as much opportunity for like interesting space visuals that you're sort of used to with Star Wars at this point. Yeah, there's cool stuff there too. So I even hesitate to say that a little bit.
I like the architecture of their village and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is like the moment that drags a little bit in the movie too, story-wise and stuff.
What's next?
Well, I'll tell you. So then,
it's not the prequels, I know that.
No.
There yet.
Unfortunately, we still have many years to go before the prequels. In Star Wars Episode 8, in The Beggar's Canyon Boys Episode 8,
Yeah.
we will be...
You'd be jumping ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't seen Episode 6 or 7 yet?
You have seen 6. Return of the Jedi 6.
Oh, okay.
You haven't seen 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, or 9.
Yeah, true.
So, Beggar's Canyon Boys Episode 8, the next episode, we will be watching the first of 2 Ewok TV movies.
Oh, yes, okay.
Caravan of Courage, a 1984 TV movie.
Which you haven't seen either.
I have never seen it. As a kid, I will say, like, I would go to Blockbuster and ask my parents if we could watch that, and they would be like, no, we're not getting that.
Oh, wow.
Because I think they knew that it was like a shitty TV movie.
Hey, maybe it's not, and you can feel vindicated in this moment.
I know. And then, okay, did you ever have, probably wasn't called the same thing, but at my elementary school, it was called impact classes. And they were just sort of like little clubs. Like, you would get like this booklet, and you could sign up for a club, and it would be like once a week after school for like an hour. And there'd be all kinds of different ones, like sports related ones. There was like a creative writing ones, all kinds of things. The ones that I did were martial arts club.
Very cool.
And I did do like a self-publishing creative writing one when I was in like 5th grade. But in 3rd grade,
oh, that's cool.
I did the Star Wars Impact class. Shouts out to Nurse. Oh man, this is so sad because like I had a nice relationship with this guy. Nurse, he was the nurse at the elementary school. A super nice guy.
And he ran this sort of club class?
Yeah, absolutely massive Star Wars fan. Very influential guy on my like level of Star Wars fandom. He introduced me to Star Wars Miniatures, a game that I...
This is so sweet to hear. I love this.
I can't believe I can't think of his name. I know my mom will.
That's pretty sad.
I know. I'm going to ask my mom because, you know, not only did I, like, go to the nurse's office multiple times, I also took his Star Wars Impact 2 different times and just, like, ended up going to Hobbytown, which was, like, the store that had a bunch of, like, not only like models and things, but also like tabletop game things.
Yeah, I know exactly the type of story you're like, talking about.
Yeah, I went there to play Star Wars Miniatures in like 4th and 5th grade, and he, like, I didn't even know it, but he was also like a guy that went there all the time to play it.
Oh, wow.
And then we just hung out more because of that. Man, it's really bothering me. I can't think of his name. So sorry if you hear this. Anyway, in the Star Wars Impact class, the first one, there was going to be like a trivia challenge in there. And he goes, this is covering all the movies. At the time, the prequels had just finished coming out. So there were 6 main movies. And he says, I'm talking the 6 main movies as well as the 2 Ewok TV movies. And in that moment, I was so mad at my mom because literally like a month before then I had asked to like rent the Ewok movie and they said no.
Oh no, and how'd trivia go?
I don't remember.
Oh man, that's bad. That means you lost.
I probably didn't do that well.
Yeah. I'm assuming a lot of the questions you must have pulled from the 2 Ewok movies.
There was probably like 1 or 2 questions from the Ewok movies. But anyway.
Oh man, you had a cool school that they had like a Star Wars class you could do during the school day, I presume.
It was after school. It was like a little after school club. Like an optional thing.
Still pretty cool though.
It was cool. Yeah. It was really cool. And then it became the Star Wars Miniatures Impact class.
That sounds fun.
In 5th grade. And that was just playing this is literally like my main obsession in like 4th and 5th grade was this Star Wars Miniatures tabletop game. And I busted it back out in college and played it a lot with my friends in college. And I have a tackle box with a shit ton of these miniatures in it. And I really want to... It's at my parents' house, though.
Yeah, I bet it's fun.
I really want to play it with you eventually because I love that game. It's so cool. It's not too complicated to the point where you're like, oh, I got to read like a 70-page rule book, and it's not like Warhammer levels of complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a fifth grader could understand how to play it.
Yeah,
and stuff,
it shouldn't be too daunting if you're playing it back then.
But it has pretty deep strategy to it, and like team build it, because it's a collectible thing. So you make your own team of like 100 points. Each, character's a different point value and stuff like that.
Are there like notable characters that you recognize, or are they like sort of generic militant character?
No, there's everybody.
Oh,
there's tons of like, stormtroopers and rebel troopers, but also Luke, Han, Leia, Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, everybody. Okay. Ewoks.
Little bounty hunters in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's hundreds and hundreds of them, and every.
Where did you get these? Like, where would you buy them? Like at those stores?
Town. Yeah, but they sold
in packs though. Like,
they're in like packs of 6 or 7, and you were guaranteed to get one rare one. They had common, uncommon, rare, and very rare.
Yeah.
And you were guaranteed, and it was a mix of commons and uncommons, and you get one rare, very rare in each one.
That sounds like so exciting. See, again, this is a thing I'm glad I didn't discover when I was younger, because I would have spent so much money, especially like the aspect of like, ooh, which characters am I gonna get? Like, I would have.
I mean, it became such a thing of like getting so pissed off when I would buy one and I had every single character already that was in one. But then that was the other thing about it. It was like Pokemon, or Yu-Gi-Oh for you, since I know that was more your thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
If I had doubles of a unique character, I want doubles of like stormtroopers. I want like 10 stormtroopers to make a little army. But like if I had 2 of the same, and again, there's multiple versions of Darth Vader with different stats and things like that. So that I'm keeping all of. But if I get 2 of the exact same like unique character,
wait, these are not hero clicks, right?
No.
Okay.
There are Star Wars hero clicks, and there are also Star Wars tactics. Do you remember tactics?
I don't know what a tactics is now.
They like click along a circular base, and they like click like 1, 2, 3, 4 moves. And
I don't think I ever have seen those now.
They're pretty cool. No, these are like this big.
Okay. So like war minis, actually. Sort of.
Yeah. It's like a war, like miniatures war game.
Okay.
What all I was gonna say was I would like trade them with my friends, because I had some friends who were super deep into it too, and it would be like, oh shit, well I really want that guy, and I have 2 of this guy, so I'll trade you.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. I know that the concept of like trading collectibles is not a novel thing, but that was my main experience with it.
I mean that's awesome, and I think it's like cool that you had friends growing up who also like were into Star Wars enough to play like what was probably kind of a nerdier Star Wars game with you, like had at least some like dedication put into it.
I had shouts out to
kids aren't into.
Jack Meslow, shouts out.
Hey, big JM, J Mez.
I might cut that out, but but yeah, I had a couple friends who really liked playing it and would play a lot. And then I would sometimes like my 5th grade birthday party, I kind of just like forced everybody to learn it and play it.
And you'd like get mad when they were winning, and you'd like make up rules and be like, the Force doesn't work that way, actually.
No, like actually, I'm a pretty big rule follower when it comes to games, even then. But no, we had a little tournament. Everybody went off and had one-on-ones, and then it came together.
For your birthday?
Yeah.
That's very sweet and awesome.
It was pretty fun.
That sounds like a fun birthday.
And I was not who made it to the finals, It was someone else. And I happily watched them. Yeah. I wasn't that kind of... I'm not saying I was a perfect kid. I had my selfish moments, but I certainly wasn't that kind of kid where like, I'm not winning and it's my birthday party. I'm supposed to be winning everything. Yeah. Anyway, to go on and on about Star Wars miniatures, but they're really cool. No, I'm super obsessed with them even now.
I also think it's like nice to hear about a little Star Wars memory, multiple Star Wars memories you have as a kid. Like,
yeah.
Hey, those are not all of us got to have that.
I know. So. I'm sorry. But that was just one thing that we're talking about next episode. The main thing.
True. I forgot we were closing the episode.
Yeah. The main thing that we're talking about is that then we will also just take a look at a guide to the Star Wars universe, the first like reference book that's officially put out about
Sweet.
Star Wars.
All right.
That, has a bunch of information about planets and species and all that stuff, which I'm pretty curious of. Like,
let's find out what insects are native to Tatooine,
yeah,
shall we?
Exactly.
Man, what could that movie be about? An hour and a half. Hey, if this book was a little teaser, I'm excited.
Yeah, hey. It's called Caravan of Courage. I mean, that should elicit some excitement from you.
Yeah, that's inspiring.
Well, look forward to the next episode, Caravan of Courage, Guide to the Galaxy. And then, should I give a little just look into the future real quick?
Oh, the roadmap?
I won't spoil everything, but we've got that. Then episode 9, we're going to watch 2 episodes of the Ewoks cartoon that started in 1985.
Yeah, more Ewoks!
Yeah, Woo! More Ewoks. This should be the second to last Ewok thing that we look at. And then also 2 episodes from the Droids cartoon that came out at the same time.
That should be cool.
Yeah. Which the Droids cartoon has a super epic theme song written by Stuart Copeland of The Police. I was listening to it. I was like, this sounds like a freaking Police song. And then I looked it up and I was like, because it was written by a member of the Police.
Oh, okay. I'll look forward to it.
Episode 10, we're going to watch the second Ewok TV movie, Ewoks: The Battle for Endor. Then we're done with Ewoks.
Do we know if that's meant to be a sequel to the first TV movie? Or
I think it is.
2 random Ewok movies?
I think it's a sequel.
Okay.
Then we'll watch...
Oh, man. What kind of cliffhanger are we getting?
Oh, I don't know. One more Droids thing. It's a cartoon hour-long special that's like what people consider to be like the best of the Droids stuff.
Okay.
Written by Ben Burt, this episode, who's the sound designer guy for all the Star Wars movies and made like the R2-D2 sounds and stuff.
All right, interesting.
And as well as in 1987, this will be in episode 10 the same, the Star Wars role-playing game. That's when that comes out.
Oh, very cool. And as I said, we should each make a character for that just to showcase what the character creation is like. If it's not too crazy in depth. I don't know if because you've not done D&D before.
I have, but only like twice have I fully gone into like making a character. So I have a pretty surface level knowledge of all that kind of stuff.
Well, maybe we could do it together, even if it's not like so complicated. But we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Look at it.
I would be down to do it together, but I also think it could be fun to like make characters and then like surprise each other with what kinds of people we wanted to be in the Star Wars world and stuff. Yeah. And we may or may not, like, if it seems really cool or there's one, because I was telling Ryan about this, but over the next like 10 years or so, they put out tons of supplemental role-playing game campaigns and things, some of which have like a bunch of original characters and deep lore in them and stuff. And maybe I'll do some looking into like what people consider to be the best one of that. And if it seems like really cool, maybe we can check it out a little bit. But
I'm super curious about like the gameplay mechanics too, and like like what your. I mean, a lot of role-playing games are more sandbox, but like if it sets out sort of goals for you and like what your metric of success within it is. But
yeah, I don't really know.
That can be something we talk about when we get there.
Yeah. So those are the next 3 episodes. I think that's probably good for now. We'll keep the rest under wraps.
Hush, hush.
Yeah, but more a lot of more video games, books, comic books, and some board games and stuff like that before we get to 1999 when the Phantom Menace comes out and everything changes.
Phantom Menace.
All right, well, thanks for listening as always. See you later.